Hi, I'm Bill Snodgrass. Welcome to episode 219. In this episode, I am going to be mostly talking about photography. I'm going to be answering the question in the email. The students asked me to talk about photography because he wants to become better at taking pictures. And I want to begin by talking about photography in the general. What is photography? I like to always go back to the origins of the word. Photography. Photography. Photo means light and graphe means to write. So literally, the word photography means writing with light. And the natural extension of that is that we are telling a story with light. Light comes in through the lens and ultimately becomes pixels on a screen or becomes dots of ink on a photo print. We're going to see in those pixels and in that ink a story of some sort. And there's two kinds of stories that exist. There is the story that is there and that is the photographer sees the story and captures the story and tells the story, and it becomes sort of an editorial of the events that occurred and the feelings and the emotions that were associated with those events. And there are some great pictures throughout history that capture the emotions of a moment in time. But there's another story that the photographer may be compelled to tell. And if you're a wedding photographer, or if you're a prom photographer, or if you're doing senior pictures, or if you're being hired by a client to take pictures of any sort, there is another story that may not really be the story that's going on, and that is, what does the client want to remember about this moment? I'm going to go shoot a basketball game, and the shooting of the basketball game tonight is going to sort of be the illustration of the rest of the answers to these questions. So I will fabricate a story. Say there's a game and the star player is playing really, really hard, and the game is close, and in the middle of the fourth quarter, the star player sprains his or her ankle and has to come out of the game. And now a drama unfolds as the star watches as their teammates carry on through the game. And win or lose, there is a drama that's at play that is the reaction of this star player to his or her injury, and the reaction of the star player to the efforts of the teammates. And that is a drama that you can capture through the lens of your camera. Well, suppose that the game is won and it's a big game. What story does the players want captured? Not the agonizing frustration the star player felt as he or she watched the game unfold, but rather the celebration and the victory. And that is a story. Let's say they win and the team celebrates, and that is a story. But there's the story that they may not want told is the injury and the anguish and the pain and the frustration. And that story was there present, but it's not the story that the players may want to remember. The players may want to remember cutting down the nets and holding up the trophy. But that other story existed and probably maybe deserves to be captured. So there's always two stories. The one that is unfolding naturally and the emotion that's associated with the events. And then there's going to be the story that your client, whoever that is, wants told. What does the client want remembered? Does the bride want to remember how uncomfortable the dress was? How hard it was to walk with that big train pulling it down the aisle? Maybe. But they probably rather would remember how nice everything looked and how happy everyone was in the celebration of the sacrament of marriage. Two different stories always unfolding, and the photographer has the opportunity to capture both. Now, we're going to look at the questions specific in here. We're going to look at the questions. The first question is, how do you get ready? Well, one of the ways I get ready for shooting a basketball game is I eat dinner. I'm going to eat dinner. I'll be back, and we'll pick up where we left off. All right, the next thing I want to address is equipment. A lot of people will want to know what kind of equipment should you use to take pictures? What kind of a camera should you get? What kind of camera should you use? You should use the camera that you have. If all you have is a phone camera, use your phone camera. If you have a DSLR and a phone camera, use the one that you have with you. Use them both if you have them both. Learn how to use both pieces of equipment and maximize what you can get out of them. The best camera you have is the one you have. And if you have a really good camera, but it's back at the house, use the one you got. And with that piece of equipment that you have, whichever it is, whatever it is, make sure you're using it. Don't just carry it around, but carry it around and take pictures. The more pictures you take, the better you're going to get at taking pictures. And that's just common sense. Take the picture, examine the picture, critique the picture, figure out what you could have done differently, what could you have done better, what really worked in this picture, do that again. What didn't work in this picture, try something different, but don't do the exact same thing that didn't work. Use your past photography experiences to guide and inform your future photography attempts. Let yourself be growing as you go along. Now, with regards to equipment, one thing you need to do is when you get ready to go do something, whatever you're going to go out and take nature pictures, you're going to go take a basketball picture, as in my case tonight, make sure that the camera batteries are charged. Make sure that you have the SD card ready to go. You know, if you have an SD card and you've got the wedding pictures on there, you don't want to format that until you have copied them off and made sure that you've got a copy in a safe place. Then you're ready to format the card and get ready to go. Bare minimum, clean the lens. Even if all you're using is your camera phone to take landscape pictures, clean the lens. Get a good lens cloth, clean that lens. Get your equipment ready for the session that you're about to do. Whatever that is, whether it's portraits, whether it's landscapes, whether it's sports, get the equipment ready, and that's going to maximize the quality of the images that you possibly could take. So that's the equipment conversation. All right, let's move on. Once you have your equipment ready, you need to get your head ready. You need to get your mind in a place that's going to make the photography opportunity maximize. You need to know a little bit about whatever it is that you're going to go be taking pictures of. And the more that you have researched and understand the event, the thing, the place, the whatever it is, the better you're going to be able to capture the story that is present. If you're just going to go trying to take a picture of a barn, well, knowing which direction the sun's going to be at the time that you go there is going to help you anticipate how to set your camera up and what you're going to do. And if you're going to be forced to shoot the barn with the sun behind it, that's one set of considerations. If the sun's going to be behind the camera shining on the barn, then that's a different set of considerations. If you're going to go shoot sports, you need to kind of know what you can expect. How does the sport operate? What are the things that are going to happen during the contest? Where will you be able to go? Where will you not? So doing some research before you go is going to help you to maximize what you can do when you get there. If you're going to do portrait work, look at pictures that might be interesting to the person that you're going to be shooting. Know a little bit about the person and what their interests are and what their taste is, so that you can know how that you're going to want to have them pose. Places that you want to go with them and take their pictures. Do some research and know what's going to happen. Now, to give you the specifics in a quick video to say, well, in this situation do this, in this situation do that, there's just not time to cover all the different things. But suffice to say, shooting sports is different from shooting portraits, is different from shooting landscapes. And learning how to do all the different things that are required for all the different situations is going to take a lot of time, and more than the scope of one video. Just know that you need to prepare yourself for the event that you're going to do, so that you can anticipate all the opportunities that you might have and all the roadblocks that you might run into. Getting yourself ready is just as important as getting your lenses and your cameras ready. So the last question of how do you how do you prepare to capture the emotions and the feelings that are in the scene, in the story, in the whatever? This is probably the hardest. This is probably the hardest thing. How do you capture an emotion when it is a frozen snapshot, a slice of time out of a whole story? The answer to that, I'm going to say, begins with understanding the emotion of the event in the first place. Or even if you can't quantify and articulate what that emotion is, recognizing that it's there. Because if you don't recognize the emotion, if you don't recognize it, there's no way you're going to capture that slice of time out of the story. The next thing is to be taking a picture. You can't capture the emotion if you're not taking the picture. And that goes back to what I said earlier. The picture you don't take never comes out. So you have to be taking the picture, and you have to be aware that there is something there. And you may not know what that something is until after you have taken it and gone back and you're looking at it. You may know what it is immediately, but you have to know that something's there, even if you can't articulate what it is, and then you have to be ready to take the picture. And I guess the foundation of being able to do that is being aware of emotion in the first place, being aware of drama, being aware of tension and anxiety and frustration and happiness and joy and sadness. Being an observer of life in the first place allows you to slice out those instantaneous moments of emotion. You slice a piece of life away because you're aware of life in the first place. I guess for me and photography, when you get that special moment and you know you've got it, when you slice that little sliver of life out of a moment, and you look at it and you know that you have captured that emotion, the body language, the expressions, the eyes of the people in the picture, the way the light is playing off of the building, the way the light is playing off the broken glass of the abandoned factory. When you've got that slice and you know it, that to me I think is the most satisfying part of photography. There was that moment of emotion, of story, that all comes together in that 24 megapixel picture, 18 megapixel, 12, 8 megapixel. You have found that moment, and to me, I think that is what the joy of photography is. That's what's special about photography. So I believe I've answered all the questions. This last answer is kind of vague because it's a huge answer, and it's one of those things that you kind of know it when you see it. But I think I've covered all the questions: getting ready, and the equipment, and the mindset, and capturing all that. Hopefully this has been helpful, not only to the guy that sent me the email, but to everyone watching. Thank you very much for watching. Please, if you enjoyed this, click the like button. Consider subscribing to the channel. Besides the photography and the videography pieces, I do a lot of life lessons, also do some science videos. Leave me a comment down in the question, anything like that. I love to interact with you through the channel. That's all for this episode. I will see you in the next one.